Let's see what's in the front of our table this morning. Yes, it looks like Clyde Elder, acting Secretary General of the Communication Workers Trade Union. And as I said, he's acting today. Tomorrow he will be deputy. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Pleasant good morning to you, Mr. Bishop, and pleasant good morning to Trinidad and Tobago, and thank you for having me.
It is really good to have you. The TDC employs over 114 people. Your union represent them. Most of them are on fixed contracts, month-to-month employment. Minister Kojo indicated that all the tourism development company employees would be treated fairly in accordance with the good industrial practice. Now, let's bring our listeners in area here. The decision to discontinue the TDC was the result of a report which was submitted to the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago June last year. And after months of deliberation, the Cabinet agreed. Minister Kojo clarified that her telephone call to your president prior to the March 9th post-cabinet press conference was intended as an act of courtesy extended to the CW and not a form of consultation. Well, I remember your union, I remember your president not being happy with this, made it categorically clear. And when the minister insisted that she's not changing her position, some folks said, well, you can do what you want, but it is the method in which you do it. The minister obviously heard and decided, I'm going to apologize. And here is where the surprise comes in. She apologized, and the union said, no, we're not accepting that apology. So it is reported. Clyde Elder, good morning to you. Tell me, why is the union refusing to accept an apology? If I go astray, I see I did something wrong, you complain that I did something wrong, I acquiesce that you were right, and I come and I apologize. What's the problem?
But that's the thing. She has not apologized for the wrong that she has done. What she has apologized for is calling the Secretary General, not the President, the Secretary General, 1 minute before going to a post-cabinet news briefing. She apologized for calling him just before there, and that call was for 1 minute and 48 seconds. To this day, she has not apologized to the union or to the workers for the manner in which they went about making the decision to get rid of TDC. They have not apologized for that as yet.
So you wanted to come out and say specifically, I apologize to the union and to the workers for not informing them before of the decision to dissolve the TDC.
And it goes further than that, Mr. Bishop. In fact, what the union is saying is that at the end of the day, if there is a genuine need to dissolve TDC, it may very well be. But before you could get to the letter Z, you must first start at the letter A.
That's what I thought until I realized that what, in fact, the union said is, listen, you were down at the letter M, which is the messenger,
yes,
and we want to speak to letter H, who is the head. You said, I am no longer going to speak to the messenger, who is the line minister. The prime minister said he's the head of the cabinet. You know what? We want to go to the head of the class. So if, in fact, you have done this because from your statement you're going directly to him because he said he's responsible. Well, the cabinet is responsible and he heads the cabinet.
Yes.
Why not just accept the apology from the minister and then move on?
But accept the apology for what? For the phone call?
Yeah, for the manner in which it was done. I mean, essentially,
For the manner in
she
which what
apologized
was
for the
done.
manner in which the announcement was made.
And that's just it. What we are asking for, we're not asking for any cosmetic kind of apology. We're not asking for an apology because somebody forced you, told you to go and apologize. We're asking for something more sincere, more concrete, more tangible. What do I mean? By that I mean the company and or the government must engage the Communication Workers Union in fruitful, meaningful discussion.
The discussion you all had last week was not only about an apology, was it?
No, the discussion we had last week, strange enough, was for the Minister Shamfa Kujo, as well as accompanied by the Minister of Labour, to indicate to the union how they reached that decision. And they made reference to a report that we have never seen.
From June of last year.
We have never seen the report. We don't even know what date the report is. We don't know who were the parties to the report. And they made reference to that report, and to this day we have never seen it.
One of the things I learned in life, by the way, that voice you're hearing is that of Clyde Elders. He's the acting Secretary General of the Communication Workers Union. We're talking about the TDC situation, the minister announcement of dissolving the TDC, the method in which it was done, and as he said, they were not consulted. It was only a phone call that the minister apologized for. One of the things I learned early, you've got two things. You've got estate and state. Clearly, state is bigger than estate.
Yes.
Sometimes I say bypass the estate and deal with the state. The apology from the minister is not fundamentally going to change anything right now. What is going to change anything right now is what happened to your membership and where we go forward.
Yes.
Is it too much to ask then that we just bypass something that was clearly inartfully done or badly done or whichever description you want to put on it, and let's go on to the bigger issue?
And we are both on the same page, Mr. Bishop. Because what the union has done is that we have written Mr. Hamilton, that's the interim CEO, I shouldn't say acting, interim CEO. We have written to Mr. Hamilton and said, listen, we have heard in the media that there's a decision by the cabinet to dissolve TDC. Let us meet company union. You are the employer, TDC, you are the employer. Let us meet. Let's sit down and discuss this thing. He wrote back to us and said, well, I acknowledge receipt of your letter. You made reference to a report which I myself don't have. And I am really at a loss if I should meet with you. Because the decision is not mine anyway.
So you're going to have consultations with him. That's what you said again?
We wrote him for that. But,
all right.
but he has refused to date.
Make clear to our listeners in the industrial arena, what is the concept? What is meant by consultation? Is it that the employer sit with you, inform him of his ideas, you offer something, but in the final analysis, the employer is going to do what he thinks is best for his corporation? Just explain to me what is the concept of consultation.
Yes. Well, first of all, before I explain the concept of consultation, let me just indicate and explain that the Communication Workers Union is the recognized majority trade union for TDC workers. Simply put, no other union can represent those workers. Another way is that those workers cannot represent themselves anymore. Any discussion you have regarding these workers must be with the Communication Workers Union. And that's by law. The law says once there's a union that has recognized majority status, you meet with that union. That has not been done. So we have said to the company, we have said to the government, meet with us, engage us, and have discussion, if you want to call it consultation, and let's discuss this thing. Now, consultation in the context that we are seeking, it may be that at the end of the day, TDC may not be dissolved. It may be restructured, which is a proposal that we have. But we cannot present that proposal to the company or to the government if no one is going or is willing to engage us in accordance with the law. Now, in regard to consultation, you may have discussion. The discussion may be a win-win for both sides. It may be a win and a loss. There may be compromise. There may be a give and take. And at the end of the day, you will have agreement, or you may agree to disagree. But you cannot get to that point unless you engage the union in discussion.
There is process, and process must be followed, is what you're saying. All right.
It.
The minister explained that the workers of the TDC, Tourism Development Company Corporation, will receive all their benefits, and they will be offered employment if they qualify into the new entities. Is this not some form of relief? Is this not encouraging?
It is encouraging. But again, we cannot get to that point if there's no discussion with the union. Because what process are you going to use to determine who qualifies?
Well, first of all, most of these folks are contractors, yes?
Yes.
Am I correct?
They're on contract, yes.
Okay, or they're all contractors. So it means that if I start a new entity, you have to resubmit. And if you resubmit and you qualify, then I would assume on merits, would it not be that?
Yes. But Mr. Bishop, respectfully, if it is, I have something. I already have, let's say, this microphone. And you come and you take this microphone from me and say, I'm going to give it to your producer. And then you say to me, well, if you want back your microphone, you'll have to make a bid for it. But that's already my microphone. Why do we have to bid for what is mine? Similarly, if the workers have jobs and you want to get rid of those jobs and put this job somewhere else, then why not engage the union to discuss who, how much, what position, what salary, all of those things. Those things has to be discussed.
But if the company is dissolved, there is no union.
And that also has to be discussed. Because if the company is dissolved and you intend to transfer the services from company A to company B.
The minister did not say she's transferring. Well, I think what was said was we will make every effort to re-interview or incorporate those who are dismissed. I paraphrase there. That's not an exact quote.
In the new entity.
In the new entity, yes.
And this new entity is supposed to do either what TDC used to do and more, or It is supposed to do what they always wanted TDC to do. But the point is, it is the same kind of job functions that is going to be created in this new entity. And
you know, sometimes you close an entity, Clyde Elders, who is my guest, sometimes you you dissolve an entity because, one, it is not reaching the mandate it was given, two, it is not profitable, or three, you have a production issue.
Yes.
Either of the three of those, you should have the option to start afresh, which means to put conditions. It's almost like something I didn't understand. When I came back to Trinidad, everybody was talking about an MOU was signed with the labor unions, and I'm going like, why are you signing an MOU before you even get in there? But isn't this almost the same thing? You're sitting down to discuss what happens, my process of hiring, which would include those who have been displaced, before I open it out to everybody. I may find more qualified people inside of here, and I may want to hire somebody just on the basis of merit.
Yes.
But that means that you held the microphone before, to take your analogy. You held the microphone before, but I got another brother who was kicking it a lot better than you are. And I decide, listen, you both asking for the same thing, but this new applicant actually is kicking better than you.
Yes. And I have no issue if it is that it's a private enterprise, it's your own enterprise, and you want to do it as you want.
Okay.
But once you have a recognized majority union, that has a meaning and a purpose in law. And if you are not prepared to recognize the union, then it means that you have violated the law and you're guilty of what you call an industrial relations offense. And we have in fact filed those proceedings at the industrial court to ask the court to agree with us that these actions is in fact a breach of the law and an industrial relations offense.
Have you had a revisiting of a situation by the industrial court with that sort of argument put before it before? Is there precedent for this?
Yes.
There is. Okay.
Yes, certainly there is.
All right. At the end of the day, we're going to keep watching that. There is nothing one can argue with what you're saying. I may be at variance with a couple of things you're saying, but, look, it's your position. Your position is that process must be followed.
That's all.
Everybody is going to say, yes, process should be followed. I still think, personally, doesn't matter what I think, because you said we have moved on beyond that. I was just getting a little tired of hearing the apology. This is not the right apology. Just get on with it. The apology is not going to change anything. But as you said, your union, you have moved on.
We have gotten on with it. In fact, we have written the Prime Minister for a meeting.
All right. So that's as far as that is concerned. TDC is one area we will keep watching. Just before I depart from that, is there anything that you want to articulate to our listeners this morning that you want them to understand about this TDC situation that hitherto we have not scratched?
Well, simply to reiterate that the union, all the union is asking for is for what is due to us under the law and for the respect that the law says we should get. Meet with us, let's discuss this thing, and let's move forward in the best interest of the company, the workers, and the country. You see, Mr. Bishop, it's not always what you do, It's how you do it. So at the end of the day, the union may have said, yes, TDC need to be dissolved. But we cannot get to that point if it is one person makes a decision and then forces it down everybody else's.
Well, the cabinet made the decision. I think that
one
has
entity.
been said.
One
yes,
entity.
Okay, good
yes.
enough. Good enough. The Prime Minister has warned non-performing state entities that they will be discontinued. No one can deny the precarious and now downward pointing price of oil and the subsequent revenue shortfall, leaving the country no choice. You represent a number of workers in a lot of areas. So I'm sure some of those other questionable performing state enterprises will come into play. How concerned is the union about this? And two, how are they preparing their members to deal with this eventuality?
But we are very concerned about this. Very, very, very concerned. In fact, I want to make a call now, Mr. Bishop, to all workers, every single worker in Trinidad and Tobago. Before you reach a point where water is more than flour, join a union. Let me give you an example. 2 Thursdays ago, government announced again, via post-cabinet news, that they are going to close down Government Human Resource Services Limited and Caroni Green. Hastily, the next day, the Minister of Communication, he has some other title attached to it, Honorable Max Coffey. He ran down to the government human resource workers and said, listen, I apologize, you had to hear this the way you heard it. You heard it yesterday in the post-cabinet brief. I apologize for that. Again, process. And at the end of the day, these workers, they don't have a union. Some of them came to us.
But if they don't have a union, what was the minister expected to do? I'm just asking.
All he was expected to do is that even though you have no union, you have human beings working in those places.
Okay, you get to a group spokesman.
Meet with them, let the management meet with them and say, listen, in 2 weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time, in a month's time, in 3 months' time, we're going to close down this entity.
Process again,
yes.
but and like I said, no one can argue with that.
Yes.
Mr. Clyde Elders is my guest, CWU Acting Secretary General, just until today, and Deputy tomorrow.
Yes.
But that's process. Actual speaking to your members about retooling themselves and preparing themselves for this problem.
Yes.
That's what I want to know. What is the union doing with the workers? Are you one of the things that I should get more specific on? I expected a union looking, I would expect, a union looking at the climate here, seeing what's happening, looking to pull its members in and send them on courses, send them on ways to up their level. It's not that you haven't been doing it before, but now there is a new urgency.
Yes.
There is generally, when things are good, a level of gradualism. And now you have to go into urgent, fast drive, go down to a low gear and accelerate like crazy. I would assume that's what unions are doing because the Prime Minister has made it very clear. You're not functioning, we're going to get you out. And there is a real problem of productivity in this country.
Yes. Well, that question is a very loaded question, Mr. Bishop.
Yes, it was
very
intended
loaded.
to be. Yes,
yes,
please go ahead.
And there are so many facets to that question. So many facets. There is, even in law, that if an employer intends to dismiss, and that dismissal I'm speaking about is retrench, sever, get rid of, downsize, that they, the employer, have a responsibility to do that same thing that you say the union has a responsibility to do, to retool, to retrain, to redeploy, all of that. That's the employer's responsibility as well.
That is mandated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, and the Retrenchment and Service Benefit Act makes provision for that, because the Act says before you reach the point of retrenchment, you must look at other ways to keep these workers, either retrain them, retool them, redeploy them. But you can't just come to a decision to retrench and have the people out in the rain without first looking at other ways and other alternatives to ensure that you do the best you can for who are human beings. Because at the end of the day, they are treated as assets. That's how they are treated, as assets. But they are not the same asset as the stocks you have for sale and the stocks that you have just purchased. They are human beings, and all the law expects of you, all normal, common courtesy expects of you is to treat me as if I'm a human being. That's all. And while we would like, as a union, to engage in retooling and retraining all our members, it's a very costly exercise as well.
That's why people pay dues, they would argue.
Yes, and those dues that people pay, they will argue as well. And once you see the statistics, those dues are dues that are barely sufficient to keep a company running month to month. Those dues are what keeps the union, keeps the union going. It pays for the administration of the union. It pays for legal fees. It pays for all those other things that you don't see but is happening. It pays for that.
Let me be categorical here. I am a union person. Have always been. Because it has brought those who have been unfairly treated into some area of respectability and some wages, some acceptable wages. In addition to, they are responsible for the middle class in almost every society that you get to. I'm just saying that, look, the government or the employers have a responsibility, and I've taken that to task at times, but I also feel that unions have a responsibility.
Certainly,
when
yes.
my inquiry of you is to have you articulate what is being done by the union, not so much to attack it, but in case it sounds like an attack, that's what it is.
No, I didn't take it as that.
Okay.
I didn't take it as that at all.
Because when I hear of companies going on strike or people losing their jobs and stuff, I want to hear about an unemployment fund. I want to hear about a strike fund that brings about real remunerations, and not a third of what you're making, but a half of what you're making, so people can live on it to make these proper demands. And I want to hear specifically in this context the area of taking workers to task. And I'm going to raise this with Mr. Dudai too, because that statement from the TSC about teachers arriving at work late. I want to hear about the responsibility of the union then, but we're dealing with you right now, Communication Workers Union. Yes. I want to hear about unions calling their members up and saying, listen, every time you sleep on the job, You're interfering with your employment. You're interfering with your colleagues' longevity, his income. You're holding back everybody by not producing. And many people I've heard in the public arena, including yours truly, wonder if this is being reinforced with the urgency and clarity necessary to meet these times. Every report we see, we are coming down the line in productivity. This is not a union responsibility. I'm not putting it at your door. I'm saying it is management. That is very clear. I am saying it's the DNA of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm saying there are a lot of issues here, including too many holidays. I just editorialized, excuse me. But there are a lot of things, but I want to hear unions are saying to their members, guys, step up.
But let me put it to you this way. I normally say to my members, but I wouldn't say it for the public to hear, for management to hear. I will say to my members, listen, I am here to defend workers' rights, not workers' wrongs. The union is there to defend workers' rights.
Yes.
Now, we are also the lawyer for workers. So, of course, when a worker finds himself in trouble, he's looking for somebody to defend him. And that person, that entity is the union.
Understood.
But even though we defend, and we'll defend as much as we can. I mean, even the common criminal out there, even someone who's accused of murder, is entitled to defense.
Yes.
Is entitled to representation.
Indeed, indeed.
A worker who comes to work late, who constantly stays home, while the union does not condone that action, once they are charged and brought before a tribunal, they're entitled to representation. We may not condone it, but our job is to represent our worker as best as we can. And sometimes we get through, sometimes we don't get through.
In case you're just student guys, we started talking about the TDC, but we're not limited to that. So in case you're wondering what productivity has to do with this, it has a lot to do with it, because it has to do with the fact of you will be out of a job if we don't step up our production.
Yes.
And I inquired of my guest, Mr. Clyde Elders. I inquired of him for the purpose of clarifying the union, yes, doing their part as far as this is concerned. Workers' mindset and production, oftentimes, as I said, failure is placed at the door of management. The union is going to step in with recommendations. Is it a general rule that folks are, companies, businesses are being consistent with the mandate as articulated by you, which I am pretty sure you're correct about, having these discussions with the unions as to how to maximize the workforce? You have a lot of consultation going on in that area?
Well, I will say...
As a rule?
Well, it is supposed to be, as a rule. But as you said, there's certain DNA in Trinidad and Tobago. And there are some companies who either see union as obstructionists. They have said that, those words exactly. They see us as... working against their interests, which we are not. And instead of sitting down with the union to discuss these things, they instead take unilateral approaches, which causes more problems. But even the National Productivity Council of Trinidad and Tobago, the union has representation on that council. We do. Because we are part of the whole discussion on productivity. So
now you see why I am confused, why I got confused, and you look at me and smile sometimes when I ask you a question, I guess because you do this too, so you understand where I'm going with it, specifically in the area of, if in fact there is a road, we must say, prerequisite, that we get together and find problems and find to correct it, why then, over this issue, with the minister, Shamfa Kujo, why is it your union pulled out temporarily from the tripartite advisory board?
Well, first of all, it's not my union.
The head body.
No, but let's just say the three federations that represent unions. That's the Joint Trade Union Movement, FITON, and the National Trade Union Center, NATOC.
Okay.
Yes. They all have representation on the National Tripartite Advisory Council, NTAC. And because of the same thing we were speaking about earlier on, because they did not follow the process in engaging the Communication Workers Union, the union said, hey, listen, you cannot be asking us to be a part of a tripartite council where we supposed to be working together, and while we're discussing working together in here, your actions out there is totally opposite to what's going on in here. So here's what. We're going to suspend our participation. We're not withdrawing.
Yes, suspend.
We're going to suspend our participation until and unless you meet with the union in good faith.
Until and unless. Just want to be sure I heard that correctly.
Yes, you meet with the union in good faith. Now, meet with the union in good faith doesn't simply say, well, okay, they want to meet, let me write them and meet with them, and whatever happens after that, so be it. No.
And the only reason I ask it, I mean, it is, and you're right, it is JTM, it is a collective body of trade unions that pulled away from this. Thank you for the clarity on that. I feel I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I always feel I can.
Yes.
Maybe I make a bad step every now and again, but I think you can. And on the one hand, you look to correct this situation deemed wrong, as you have, I think, admitted wrong, as the minister has, even though you said she qualified.
But she has not admitted that action was wrong.
All right. I'm not going to win this one. All right. So you have that, but I still think you have to continue the participation, albeit, I mean, even though it is a temporary suspension and not a withdrawal, I still like to think that folks will continue. We can disagree over here, but we can continue over here.
Yes.
It is possible.
Yes, it is possible. But there are times, Mr. Bishop, when
sleep on the couch, don't leave the house.
Yes.
Brought down to the...
Yes.
Yes.
So even in your own house, you and your spouse may have an issue, and for a couple of weeks, you're all not gelling, you're all not meshing. And until one of the individual decides to say, okay, I was wrong, or let's move past this, or let's fix it, they don't come back together as they were before they were angry. And all we're saying in this instance is that you're not going to engage the trade union movement in anything cosmetic. If it's cosmetic, you are no part of it. And it appears as if it's been cosmetic, because you can't be asking us to work as a team. And when we're trying to work as a team, you go out on your own. It's like the football match. It's like a football team. It's 11 players on the team. But if one person wants to be the defender, the striker, the midfielder, and the goalie, then that team is going to lose.
It's not I, it's we.
It's we.
The Minister of Public Administration and Communications is who we spoke about earlier,
Yes.
Mr. Coffey.
Yes.
And I guess all else will have to start taking a serious look at the utterances that come out of press conferences, if in fact the prereq is not done, which is to have the conversations before. That's
And
what
it
we
seems
say.
that way. It seems as if the only way for people to know their future in employment is to listen to the post-cabinet news briefing on a Thursday afternoon.
My God, my dear Mr. Elders, I can let you know it could be worse. It could be Donald Trump tweeting.
Well, strange enough, the workers at Government Human Resource Services Limited was aware that they were going to be closed down via Twitter.
Oh,
Strange enough.
It's here. It is here. Anything you want to pass on to, I think we've made clear this morning, Clyde, the area of the process. We made clear, I hope, what has gone on with the TDC and where it's going. How optimistic are you that, in fact, we can find a bridge for all of this in conclusion?
Well,
this specific area of the Tourism Development Corporation, as far as where they are, and the two new entities coming, and the union's position.
I remain optimistic simply because even if the company doesn't wish to engage us or the government, we have in fact filed legal action against them, and I'm very optimistic that those actions will be successful to force them to the table.
I did say that was the final question. It was not the final question. I cheated. Here is my final question. You seem to have a a representative, according to the employers. You seem to have a representative. You seem to have an ally in the industrial court. $11 million in compensation for this year only, coming from 11 companies. And like I said, 11 companies only for the period January to February. This is Trinidad and Tobago, $11 million in short order. Do you agree with them that you have an ally? Do you agree that the industrial court, as the industrial court it was set up to be, and as they say, Chief Justice Felix makes it very clear all the time, we are here independent to hear things on the merits, but the employers seem to think differently.
I certainly don't agree with the employers. The industrial court will look at matters and will give a judgment based on the case that is before them. If it is the employers are saying, well, we are lost in matters, then what the employers need to do is look at their actions. Look at what is causing, first of all, workers to be wrongfully dismissed, because the ad did say, the article did say, for wrongful dismissal.
Yes.
Look at why it is you're losing those cases. Look at the process that we're speaking about, because I am certain that in every one of those cases, the issue was process. I'm certain in every one of those cases. And while they did say $11 million for this year alone, it has to be put in a certain context. One of those companies was $6 million. One of those companies, because it was not one worker, It was a group of workers.
Is this the BG company you're referring to?
I think that's the...
Or the Royal Dutch now owns BG?
No, it's not the BG. I think
Oh,
it was
it's not the BG.
Was it the TCL? Or was it? It slips me which
All
of
right,
the company
all
it
right.
was.
Please go ahead.
But one of the company, I think it was Ready Mix.
Ready Mix, yes.
I think
Ready
it was
Mix
Ready
Limited,
Mix.
I'm looking at it right
Yes.
now. Single largest judgment was in the case
6
of Ready
million.
Mix and the OWTU, and the company was ordered to pay a total of $6.3 million to 16 workers.
16 workers. Good? And when you contextualize the data, you will realize that something is going on, yes, but what is going on is that employers are now finding themselves in a comfort zone where they feel they can dismiss employees with impunity. And when the unions take up these matters and win it at the court, they're now saying, hey, look, the court supporting the union.
Can I get a Roberta flag, please? You've got a friend. Clyde, let me thank you. Clyde Elders, who is enjoying his last day as acting Secretary General and will return to another place that he enjoys equally. This is as Deputy Secretary General of the Communication Workers Union. Clyde Elder, thank you so much for taking the time
And
to be
thank
with
you
us
for
this
having
morning.
me, and thank you for allowing the voice of the Communication Workers Union and the labor movement to have this opportunity to give our side of the story. Just before I go, I just want to reiterate to all workers, do not wait until you are dismissed, until you have been suspended, until you have found yourself in need of a union to join a union. Join a union today, join a union tomorrow. And I want to suggest that the best union you can find is the Communication Workers Union. I thank you, Mr. Bishop.
The views expressed by Mr. Elder is not those of the radio station. Have a good day, man.